It's everywhere you turn, on podcasts, social media, and even casual conversation. You hear this high-value rhetoric. It's thrown around as if it's the ultimate measure of someone's worth. But what are we really saying when we use it? That only certain people deserve love, respect, or happiness? That someone's value is determined by how much they can achieve or acquire? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, where does this idea of someone being high value or low value even come from? Why do we, as a society, feel the need to judge people's worth based on things like money, status, or even life choices? And more importantly, who gave us that right to make these judgments? Welcome, I'm Felicia, and today I want to challenge these ideas head on. I want to show you why these labels are harmful, how they are rooted in systems that have failed us, and why your value isn't something anyone else gets to define. I want to dive into how this rhetoric harms women, divides men and women, and perpetuates the toxic cycles of judgment and disconnection. And most importantly, we will talk about how to break free from all of this. I want to start off by going back just a little bit. Now, historically, humans have relied on natural resources to survive: food, water, shelter, and community. These were accessible and shared, fostering cooperation and balance. But as societies evolved, man took control of these resources, limiting access and creating artificial systems of value based on scarcity and competition. Today, wealth's not measured by how well someone can live harmoniously with nature, but by how many material possessions they can accumulate. All of these man-made needs, like your luxury goods and social status and external validation, create a society obsessed with acquiring rather than connecting. Now, the idea of ranking people's worth isn't new. In fact, it's deeply rooted in patriarchal systems designed to maintain control. For centuries, men and women have been assigned to roles: men, providers and protectors, and women, nurturers and caregivers. These roles weren't always about honoring individuality or humanity. They were about keeping everyone in their place. Religion has often reinforced these systems, teaching that women's value lies in their purity or service, and men's in their ability to lead or provide. But these interpretations stray far from the core spiritual principles of love, equality, and compassion. Think about how single mothers are often shamed in religious communities, despite the strength and love it takes to raise a child alone, or how humility is preached, yet men are pressured to chase wealth and dominance to prove their worth. Over time, as society became more materialistic, these judgments have evolved. Now, worth is tied to what you can acquire: your money, all of your luxury items, and your social status, rather than who you are at the core. This obsession with material needs has created a culture where we judge people based on surface level criteria, completely ignoring their humanity. Unfortunately, women in particular are often the targets of this low value label. single mothers are labeled as reckless, and women who turn to platforms like OF are dismissed as unworthy. But let's take a closer look. Why are these choices being made in the first place? Why do we have women that may use OF to support herself in a world where the cost of living is skyrocketing and equitable opportunities aren't always accessible? Yet, instead of addressing these systemic barriers, society shames her for surviving in ways that are available to her. And the irony is that these platforms like OF are making billions of dollars, and a significant portion of that revenue comes from the very men who publicly shame these women. It's a glaring double standard, labeling them as low value while benefiting from their work in private. What's even more disheartening is how women have been conditioned to judge one another. Instead of standing together, we've been taught to compete for validation, tearing each other down to elevate ourselves in systems that, honestly, were never built for us to win in. I mean, honestly, let's think about it. Who benefits when women judge each other? It's certainly not us. These judgments, they do nothing more than create cycles of shame, self-doubt, and isolation. Women begin to internalize these labels, believing they are unworthy or not enough, when in reality, it's the system that's failed them. I want to be clear here. This low-value, high-value rhetoric doesn't just hurt women. It creates tension and division between men and women. Men are pressured to meet unrealistic financial standards, while women are judged for seeking independence or making non-traditional choices. It pits us against each other rather than encouraging partnership. Relationships become transactional, where people are valued for nothing more than what they can provide rather than who they are. Women are told to bring beauty and nurturing and her own money, while men are told to bring money and leadership. But where is the love in that? This mindset erodes the foundation of real relationship, mutual respect, understanding, and emotional connection. It reduces love to a checklist, and that's not what love was meant to be. Here's the truth. Your worth isn't something you earn. It's something you are. You are valuable simply because you exist. No amount of money, status, or validation can add to that, nor can a mistake or judgment take away from that. The idea of high value or low value is just another lie we've been sold. It's a way to divide, control, and dehumanize us. But here's the truth. You are already enough. Your worth doesn't come from what you can acquire, achieve, or provide. It comes from the very fact that you exist. Many who perpetuate these conversations about high value and low value often identify with religious teachings, particularly Christianity, which emphasizes love and humility and equality. Even Jesus himself taught that every person is valuable regardless of their status or possessions. Claiming to love others as Jesus would while labeling them as low value is a contradiction. It reveals a disconnect between those spiritual, religious principles and societal practices. I mean, after all, Jesus himself spent time with those considered low value by society, the lepers, tax collectors, and outcasts. And he never asked them to prove their worth or earn their place. He taught that love is universal and unconditional, not tied to wealth, beauty, or societal success. Those who uphold this system often act as gatekeepers, labeling others as low value for not meeting arbitrary standards. This behavior mirrors bullying on a societal scale, where power and control are maintained by marginalizing those who don't fit into the mold of success. The conversation around high-value men and high-value women touches on something so much deeper than societal roles. It intersects with our spiritual essence, our intrinsic worth, and the ways in which humanity has been conditioned to value or devalue individuals. Every human being is born with innate worth. This isn't something earned through wealth, status, or achievement. It simply is. The idea of labeling someone as high value or low value is a man-made construct that denies the spiritual truth of our equal worth. Imagine a forest. Every tree, regardless of its size or type, contributes to the ecosystem. A towering oak is no more valuable than a small wildflower. Both play their role in the balance of nature. Humanity is meant to work the same way, with every individual offering unique contributions to the whole. This labeling of people is not only spiritually shallow, but it's dehumanizing. It denies the essence of the divine in all of us. If we are all created by a higher power, how can we as flawed beings claim the authority to rank one another? We are all expressions of the same divine energy, and to diminish someone's worth is to deny their connection to the greater whole. Once again, we find ourselves looking at the ways patriarchal systems upheld by religion, class structures, and societal norms continue to fail both men and women. These systems were never designed for balance, equality, or genuine connection. Instead, they rely on hierarchy, control, and judgment to maintain power. Women are disproportionately affected by these judgments, whether it's being labeled low value for having children outside of marriage or for choosing non-traditional ways to support themselves financially. These labels reduce women's worth to how well they conform to patriarchal ideals. The patriarchal system thrives on policing women's choices, teaching them to seek approval and validation from external sources while disregarding their intrinsic value. And men aren't winning either. Men are also trapped in this system. Their value is tied to their ability to accumulate wealth or control, forcing them into roles that prioritize acquisition over connection. The pressure to meet these artificial standards creates resentment, burnout, and a lack of emotional fulfillment for men. And there's been a huge impact on relationships. These judgments create yet another point of contention between men and women. Instead of fostering understanding, they fuel division. Women resent being reduced to their physical or social status, while men struggle under the weight of unrealistic expectations. This dynamic breeds passive-aggressive behaviors as both genders navigate relationships in a system that pits them against one another rather than encouraging partnership. In a world obsessed with acquiring material possessions and social status, artificial needs have replaced genuine human connection and fulfillment. Instead of asking, "What kind of person are you?" we ask, What can you offer me? These judgments reflect just how little of an impact religion or spirituality has truly had on the collective consciousness. If people genuinely believed in the principles of compassion and grace and humility, then would they so easily label others as low value? By reducing people to surface level ideals, we rob them of their humanity and deny them the chance to be seen for who they truly are. This judgmental culture discourages vulnerability and connection, leaving everyone more isolated, defensive, and unfulfilled. It's time to recognize that these systems we've been living within, the patriarchal norms, religious dogma, and class structures based on artificial needs, are not serving us. They're harming our relationships, diminishing our self-worth, and keeping us locked in cycles of judgment and disconnection. A high-value woman is often described as someone who's beautiful, submissive, and nurturing, while also being independent, but not too independent. This creates impossible standards, forcing women to navigate a narrow path of acceptable behavior. We can consider this a weaponization of value. These labels are often used to shame women who don't conform to societal norms, such as those who choose careers over family and reject traditional beauty standards or prioritize self-discovery over romantic relationships. Men are also pressured to achieve material success to be deemed worthy of respect or love, ignoring the qualities like kindness, vulnerability, or emotional intelligence. The label of low value is often placed on women based on circumstances or choices that society views as unacceptable, even when those choices stem from systemic inequalities or the harsh realities of life. I'll go back to the example again of the single mother who is often labeled as damaged goods in some circles. Now, the irony is that raising a child is one of the most selfless and challenging acts, requiring strength, resilience, and an endless capacity to give. Instead of recognizing this, society diminishes her worth because she doesn't fit the traditional mold of a nuclear family. When these women turn to platforms like OF to earn money, they're often harshly criticized and dismissed as low value, despite the rising cost of living and a lack of equitable pay for women in traditional careers. These women are using their bodies and creativity to carve out financial independence in a world that has historically denied them control over both. As I mentioned earlier, there is such a hypocrisy behind all of this. The very men who label women as low value and bully them for using sites such as OF or similar platforms are often the very ones who will publicly shame these women and will turn a blind eye to the fact that this industry generates billions of dollars annually, and the majority of its revenue comes from men who publicly shame women while supporting the industry behind closed doors. There's a harsh truth here. It's not just men who perpetuate this bullying. So many women influenced by societal programming also participate in labeling and shaming other women. By buying into these labels, women contribute to a toxic culture that divides them and weakens the collective strength of the sisterhood. A woman might judge another for being on OF or having a child out of wedlock, believing that this judgment elevates her own worth. In reality, This division only reinforces the very systems that diminish all women. These labels teach women that their worth is tied to their ability to conform to these social norms, discouraging individuality, creativity, and empowerment. The focus on external validation, whether from wealth, beauty, or relationships, distracts women from discovering their intrinsic value. By dividing women and perpetuating harmful stereotypes, this bullying slows the progress of gender equality and social healing. The conversation needs to shift from judgment to understanding and from condemnation to compassion. The way forward is through unity, not division. Women must stand together, supporting one another's choices and recognizing that every woman's path is unique. Instead of judging, why not ask what systemic barriers led her to this place? How can we create a world where all women have more choices and more opportunities? The idea of labeling someone as high or low value is a lie that divides us. It's a tool of control rooted in systems that don't honor our humanity. But you don't have to buy into it. Your worth isn't something anyone else can define. It's something that has been within you all along. We must let go of the need to rank or classify others. Instead, we should focus on building relationships based on mutual respect, compassion, and understanding. Moving forward is going to require dismantling systems that thrive on division and judgment. This includes questioning not just the labels we use, but the very structures that create them. By focusing on financial and social markers, these discussions often devalue emotional intelligence, kindness, and the ability to nurture healthy relationships. These are qualities that are crucial for personal and relational fulfillment. Right now, men are often measured by their ability to provide financial stability and elevate their partner's lifestyle. This creates pressure for men from lower income backgrounds to overwork or prioritize career advancement over other aspects of life. The same goes for women, who are also expected to present themselves in a way that aligns with upper-class ideals. A woman's choice to pursue artistic passions, live modestly, or reject mainstream beauty standards might disqualify her from the high-value discussion. Discussions about high-value relationships often discourage partnerships across class lines, implying that people of different socioeconomic statuses can't connect meaningfully. This does nothing more than promotes a transactional view of relationships where material compatibility outweighs emotional or spiritual alignment. Focusing on class-based metrics can lead to, like I said earlier, transactional relationships where partners are valued for what they can provide rather than who they are. True value lies in qualities like integrity, emotional intelligence, kindness, and the ability to build meaningful connections. Traits that can't be quantified by money or status. High-value men and women are those who bring emotional stability, self-awareness, and kindness to the relationship. Financial success can enhance a relationship, but it shouldn't define its worth. Value is subjective. A high-value person is someone who aligns with your values and supports your growth regardless of their class or lifestyle. There are so many people who lack access to resources, education, or opportunities that would enable them to achieve the financial success often associated with being high value. These conversations rarely acknowledge systemic barriers like poverty, racism, or generational inequality. Even the working class is excluded from this high value conversation, even if they possess the qualities like loyalty, resilience, and emotional intelligence. Instead of shaming others for their choices, we should celebrate the diversity of what fulfillment and success looks like for different people. Here's the truth. Relationships at their core are not about what someone can offer you on a checklist or how well they fit into societal definitions of high value. Real relationships are built on connection, mutual respect, and a willingness to see and honor each other's humanity. When we reduce people to surface level judgments like how much they earn or how they look or their life choices they've made, we not only harm them, but we also rob ourselves of the opportunity to truly connect. Relationships become battles of validation instead of partnerships of growth. It's time to break the cycle, to let go of labels and judgments and systems that pit us against one another. When we see ourselves and each other as worthy simply because we exist, that's when we begin to heal. Imagine what relationships could look like if we led with compassion instead of criticism, with understanding instead of judgment. Imagine partnerships where both people are free to be fully themselves, where there's no need to prove worth because it's already known. So today I invite you to start seeing yourself and others differently. Let your relationships be a reflection of your highest truth, not society's shallow standards. When we value each other for who we truly are, we create a world where love, connection, and respect can thrive.